Welcome to Literacy Teachers, where we're all about helping you to inspire, motivate, and change how your students read and write for academic success. In this video, we're going to be talking about the term good reader and unpacking it a little bit to think about what does that term even mean. So here we go. All right, so let's dive into this idea of what does it mean to be a good reader, because definitions of what it means to be a good reader, something that I hear very often in classrooms, right? And as teachers, we have our own understandings of what a good reader should look like at a particular age. And just in case you don't know, students have their own understandings as well, and they may or may not align with your understandings. And sometimes student understandings are typically very, very limited and restricted. So students might think a good reader is, I've heard middle schoolers say this, somebody who can read the words really fast. All right, that's clearly not what a good reader is, but just so you know, students will have definitions that look like that. Now, in general, when we think about who gets labeled, right, kids who get labeled as being good readers, they do tend to have a few things in common. So they are able to monitor what they're reading. They're able to gauge if it makes sense. And then if they have some comprehension problems, they are typically able, right, they have strategies to address those, okay? Or if that doesn't work, they ask for help, right? But they have something that they do to try to correct that. They recognize where their comprehension falls short. They've got a bag of tricks to help them fix it. They also know when it's probably okay to skip over something because it's not really going to impede their overall comprehension or purpose of engaging with that text, all right? And then they can apply what they've learned to other contexts, other types of text, so they can transfer, all right? Good readers are typically very good at transfer. Struggling readers, not so much. And so this means that, like, your good readers can take skills and strategies that they've learned in one class, or, you know, if you're a third grade teacher and let's say you teach all the subject areas, you teach a skill in one context, like science, they're able to see how they can utilize that same skill when they're reading history, for example. So they're able to engage in transfer. Now, that's not an all-inclusive list, right? I just want to throw some things out at you to, you know, just to get us started, just to get that conversation going. Now, the National Reading Panel back in 2000, so well over 20 years ago at this point, identified what they called the 5 pillars of reading instruction, right? These 5 things that are absolutely critical if we want students to succeed and be good at reading, right? And so these are phonemic awareness, phonics, comprehension, vocabulary, and fluency. And those are absolutely critical skills that students need to possess in order to be good readers. Some of those typically should be acquired in the early grades, right? Phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, okay? Those should be developed very early on. But comprehension and vocabulary, of course, we're always working to build that and develop it as students start to read more complex texts and more discipline-specific texts. And even fluency is something that we can be working on K-12 because, like I just said, these texts start to become more dense and complex. And so we're going to have to work on our fluency in relation to that. But a solid foundation of fluency should be established in the early grades. Now, the thing to note here is that the 5 pillars, right, and then also the things that I was talking about above, right, like earlier with, you know, kids being able to monitor their comprehension, having strategies, being able to transfer, right, those are very much, for the most part, skills-based, right? They've acquired the skills, they can use the skills. They can put the skills and the strategies in other contexts. They can transfer them, okay? And so what that does is it really focuses in on reading as being this isolated cognitive act. And, you know, when we're reading to ourselves, yeah, I mean, if we're just sitting there reading a book, it is an isolated cognitive act, right? Cognition is a huge part of reading, okay? Obviously, duh, right? Am I telling you anything new yet? Probably not, but we're getting to it, I promise. So a big part of furthering our comprehension is talking about what we read, okay? This often gets left out. When we talk about a book, even if we don't fully understand it, okay, we've got the opportunity to sort out some of our confusions and refine our understandings. And we can make connections to ideas that we hear others talking about and expand our understanding beyond what it might have been if we didn't engage in such discussions. So discussion really allows for reflection. It can give opportunities for our students to reconsider their stance on a topic. It can allow them to rethink ideas that they were sure were absolutely correct until they were presented with another point of view and more information, right? And they had to refine them. So my point here, a little long in the making, is that reading is both a cognitive and a social process. And I only touched on social very, very, just that much, right? Not very much at all. But it is a critical part of the reading process. And it is a critical part of what it means, I think, to be a good reader. The skills that the National Reading Panel say need to be developed, those really do need to be developed, okay? Without them, kids are never going to be able to get at comprehension. But we also have to recognize that reading isn't an isolated cognitive act, and we know kids need to have these opportunities to talk and be engaged around what they read, and so we need to provide those so that it's going to further their ability to comprehend, right? And let them try out these skills and strategies. Let them talk through content, questions, and ideas. So reading and comprehending, again, both a social and cognitive act, and helping our students understand and work towards developing both is what's going to allow them to continue to grow.